Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Live show. I am your host, Billy Powell. As you can see with us is Major League Baseball legendary great Tommy John. Tommy John, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the Keeping the Nostalgia Live show.
You're quite welcome. We're going to talk about what? Terre Haute?
We're going to talk about Terre Haute. We're going to talk about a little baseball. Speaking of Terre Haute, you were a Terre Haute Gerstmeyer Black Cat, correct?
Yes. Orange and black were our colors.
Yes. And what I found out yesterday, most of my interviews are about the game of basketball from Indiana. But what I found out yesterday, I don't know if you remember Gene Bumper Tormolin.
No.
Okay. He was a professional basketball player and a professional basketball coach. And he was so fond of you, he named one of his sons after you.
A name came to my mind, and I don't want to say it over the air. But I'll tell you who my very, very, very good friend is Bobby Slick Leonard. He drove over to my mother's funeral to pay last respects, because that's how much he thought of the John family.
You know, spending so much time in Major League Baseball and playing baseball, I would like to reflect a little bit on your high school basketball days and Howard Sharp and your first coach, Howard Welch.
Well, Howard Sharp was the idol. I mean, the guy. But the reason he was good, we had good players, obviously. But back in the day, the junior varsity coach was Bill Welch. And he was a no-nonsense. I found that out. He blew the whistle. And when when they blow the whistle, things cease. Well, Tommy wanted to be a wiseacre, and I took a shot at a side basket, and it hit. And he said, "Who shot that?" I raised my hand. He said, 10 laps. So I had to do 10 laps up and down the bleachers. And I came back and I was pooped. But I found out then, when the whistle blows, the balls go on the ground. But everything Bill Welch did was, you do it this way, the only way. You do it this way. And then when you went up to the varsity, Howard Sharp didn't have to coach. He just coached offensively, because Welch had us all defense and all that. But in fact, Bill just died, I think in December. He was 97 years old, I believe. And God bless him. I remember in 1959, he left Gerstmeyer to coach the Iranian national track team. That's when Iran was our friend. And he missed a year, but he coached, and then he went to the Olympics. I'm trying to think where the Olympics were in 1960. Rome, I believe. And he came back with all these new techniques that he learned over in Europe. And we had track and field was second to none. That's why I quit, because I was none.
Speaking of Rome in the 1960 Olympics, I think Oscar Robertson was on that gold medal winning basketball team, and you guys got to play against Crispus Attucks. I think after Oscar had left one year, but what was that like, playing against Crispus Attucks?
I saw Oscar Robertson play in high school as a freshman at Crispus Attucks. And I saw him play as a senior in the finals against Gerstmeyer in the afternoon game. In fact, we were at a golf outing, and I went up and I introduced myself to Oscar. And I said, I saw you in the afternoon game of the state championship, and you fouled out. And he went, yeah, that blankety blank Bob Hickman. He said he wouldn't, Crispus Attucks had a lead, and Sharp's thing was, Bob, don't let Oscar score. And Hickman was on him. And finally, Oscar fouled out. The only game in high school that he fouled out. And it was the afternoon finals against Gerstmeyer. And he said, "What's that guy doing now?" I said, "Well, last I heard, he was selling cars in Terre Haute. He should have done it in high school."
So you had over 35 colleges wanting you for basketball. And,
Yeah.
you know, I want to show you this. I found it online. The poor sap who gave it away had it autographed by you, and his name was Jeff, but I'll go by Jeff from now on since it's autographed.
Okay.
But you were recruited by over 35 schools to play basketball. Right. And I know your love is baseball, but give us an idea of some of the schools and tell us about, can you just share your Adolph Rupp story with us?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was Indiana, Notre Dame, Butler, Ohio State, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, North Carolina State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, University of Florida, University of Michigan, Naval Academy. And, you know, when I got that letter, I looked at it. I told my mom and dad, I said, you know, I may not be very smart, but if they think I'm going to sign up and go to the Navy for 4 years just to play basketball there. But the coach said, I can, you know, you have so many of the congressmen and senators can get people in to the academies, but the athletic coaches have so many grants that they can get guys in. But, you know, I had one scholarship offer in baseball, and that was to the University of Illinois. And I also had a basketball scholarship offer there. But and had I stayed home and not played baseball, I would have gone to the University of Illinois because they were going to let me. Whoa, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. They were going to let me play basketball and baseball. And most of the schools, you know, you did one or the other, but Illinois said, yeah, if you can go out, and if you make the basketball team, great. And I was looking forward to it, but then I got a chance to sign, and Cleveland came up and offered me $35,000. And my agent was my dad. And he said, he told Gabe Paul, he said, if you give us 40, we'll sign. And as soon as he said, if you give us 40, Gabe Paul was around the desk, had his hand out, and they shook. And my dad said, I think I undersold you. But, you know, basketball was king. That's what we did in Indiana. You played baseball in the spring and summer to get ready for basketball season. And basketball was the thing. But anyhow, the Adolph Rupp, there were twins in Indianapolis Manual, Tom and Dick Van Arsdale. They were the best. So Coach Rupp and his assistant were recruiting them big time. And they drove up from Kentucky, from Lexington, and were whining and dining and then Tom and Dick signed a letter of intent to go to IU. Well, they're out of the picture. So they come over to Terre Haute, and they come over to recruit me. And they come up to the house, and I happened to be out that day playing golf with some friends of mine. And they're talking, and my dad said, you know, I don't know if Tom's going to go to college. We're getting a lot of looks at baseball. There's a lot of teams are looking, you know. So now Rupp being the genius that he was, he said, well, we've got an outstanding baseball team. We've got an outstanding baseball team. Your son might not even be able to make the Kentucky team. Well, not if you're trying to sell somebody on your product and you tell them that you might not be able to use that product. And my dad got up and he said, Coach Rupp, I've never liked you. Howard Dardeen told me stories about you when he was at Kentucky. I've never liked you then. I don't like you now. Do you see that door? Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out. And Rupp jumped up and he marched out the door, and they went to the car. And then the assistant coach came back in and he said, Mr. John, Coach Rupp's been through a lot of hard times, pressure, and he probably should not have said what he said. So don't hold that against him. Keep an open mind if you would. My dad said, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And when I got home from playing golf, he told me the story. And I said, so it looks like I'm not going to Kentucky, huh? He said, you better not.
So you just talked about one set of twins. I actually got off the phone of this other set of twins, brother Harley, and both Harley and Arlie.
Oh, Harley and Arlie. Yeah.
Harley and Arlie are still alive. They're 86 years old. And I got off the phone with Harley the other day. Tell us what Arlie Andrews did for you and what it meant to you in your baseball career.
Well, it was Harley, Arlie, and Uncle Harold. Uncle Harold was about 4 years younger, I think. But anyhow, Harley was right-handed, Arlie was left-handed. And they had a ton of basketball scholarship offers. Arlie signed a baseball contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. And he played, instead of going to college, he played baseball. And he was in an automobile accident and hurt his shoulder, and he couldn't pitch very well after that. So he played 4 or 5 years. In fact, he played with the effervescent Dallas Green. And too bad Dallas didn't learn his stuff, but that's another story. So I was 13. And my dad said, let's go up. I called Arlie, and we're going to go up, and you're going to throw for him. I said, okay. So I went up, and he had a mound in his backyard. And I loosened up and threw, and he said, okay, you want to learn how to throw a curveball, don't you? And I said, yes. And he said, how do you throw a curveball? I said, well, I don't. And he said, okay, here's how you hold it. Here's how you make it spin. You want the ball spinning from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock on that angle. I said, okay. I got up and I threw it. The first curveball I threw, Arlie said, you've never practiced this before? And I said, no. He said, it was perfect. The ball had perfect spin on it. Are you sure? I said, no, I have no idea how to throw one. And I threw maybe 20, 25 curveballs. And from that time on, in fact, I got out of baseball in 1989. That was my last year. I started out in 61 with 2 pitches, fastball and a curveball. I retired in 1989 with a fastball and a curveball. I couldn't learn a slider, and I couldn't learn a changeup. And I pitched all those years by throwing a fastball and a curveball. Now, I changed speeds on them, but people went, you mean to tell me that you only threw 2 pitches? I said, yes. One had maybe a vertical break. The other has a 45-degree break. Another one has maybe 30-degree break that I drop down and throw to left-handed hitters to make it break across the plate. But those are the things you learn through trial and error. You know, I got my butt kicked throwing one way, and but shoot, fastball, curveball, if they're good, you don't need all those other pitches. In fact, there was a kid came to the house yesterday, 10 years old. He's from Gilbert, Arizona, and he stopped by and we're talking, and I said, how many pitches you have? He said, I have 6. I said, what? I have 6. I have a fastball, I have a sinker, I have a curveball, I have a slider, I have a cutter, and I have a changeup. That may be 5. And I said, you're kidding me. And how old are you? And he said, I'm 10. And I told him, I said, I was 46 and I had 2. And he said, how could you pitch with 2? I said, if they're good, you can pitch with 1. But, you know, the kid is playing in a tournament here over the weekend. And I think tonight is the last night that they're playing. And then when they go back home, they go to Florida for a big tournament. And these guys that run these travel teams, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars off these young men like this. And he's got hitting instructors, he's got pitching instructors, he's got strength guys, he's got all this and he's 10 years old. And he said, well, what did you do? I said, 10 years old? I said, I was playing Cowboys and Indians. I said, I was playing Cowboys and Indians. Hold on. Okay, we're back.
I got you. Yes.
And he said, you mean you didn't do this? I said, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And he said, well, what do you think I should do? I said, be a 10-year-old boy.
You know, speaking of that, and you're correct, it's the same way with the game of basketball. It's, you know, with AAU and
oh yeah,
and tons of cash flowing here and there. How much has the game of baseball changed?
I don't watch it, so I can't tell you. It's a different game than I played. In fact, you have the analytics would not like me because I was a 2-pitch pitcher. And if I had a good fastball, I may throw, if I throw 100 pitches, I may throw 90 fastballs and 10 curveballs. You can't do that. Analytics, you've got to start out with a curveball on the outside, and then you go. I don't want some guy that's never played the game tell me how to pitch. And that starts with Billy Bean. He's got no freaking clue. He couldn't hit. He couldn't hit when he was a player. So now he's going to tell these guys how to hit and how to do all this. No, come on. Let's. No, I don't watch it, so I don't know. But I tell you, I love Clayton Kershaw because not only is he a good pitcher, but to me, he's the Jordan Spieth of baseball. He and his wife go over to Africa after the season, and they spend money building communities over there for the African people. And that is tremendous, what he does. And I think that there should be more Clayton Kershaws in the game.
At this point in time, do you keep in, you know, with the pandemic going on and, you know, and all this going on in the world, do other former teammates call you? Do you keep in touch with former teammates? And how have you been coping with this pandemic?
When I played, I didn't keep in contact with my teammates. I was a teammate, and during the game and we were on the field, you were my buddy. But after the game, my friends were people from our church, our neighborhood, and that. because baseball is a very tough sport. And you might be, they might be buddy on the field, and you leave to go home and they'll stick a knife in you. And Don Mattingly, Donnie and I were close, but I never called him up during the off season. Hey, Donnie, let's go hang out for a weekend. No, hey, at the end of the season, see you next year, big guy. And then if he needed me to come down to Evansville for something that he had on, he would call me or whatever, and I would do it for him. If a teammate called me and needed me to do something, I would do it for him in a heartbeat. But I didn't go out soliciting their friendship.
So it's a little bit different, I have found, in interviewing baseball players and interviewing basketball players. Basketball players seem to be a little bit closer knit.
Yes. Football players are closer knit. Baseball is an individual sport played as a team. And that's what it is. It's a very individual sport, but you play it as a group of 9.
I told you before the interview, there was nothing like, as a 10 or 11-year-old kid, going to the Hooks drugstore in Indianapolis, Indiana, and opening up my baseball card pack and finding Tommy John, Pete Rose, Dave Kingman. And also going to the grocery store, Marsh grocery store, and picking up the Twinkies and seeing Tommy John, Enos Cabell, and Greg Luzinski on the bottom, that you cut out the cards and you collect them. I was on a Twinkie box.
You were on a
Twinkie box. What was that process like when you were on a baseball card? Do you remember your first baseball card, and how cool did you think that was? Or did you just continue on focus on what you wanted to do in pitching?
I don't know. My first baseball card, I remember we would sign releases every year in spring training from Topps. Topps was the card of choice. And you would sign a release and they could use your picture on a card. Well, it never happened until I made the major leagues in 1964. And I was on a card. Bob Chance, our big first baseman, was on top and I was on the bottom. That was my first card. And I maybe got, for all that, $1,000 or what. I mean, it's nowhere near what it is now. But, when you see yourself on a card, you kind of swell with pride. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed signing those cards for people.
Did you collect baseball cards when you were a youngster?
No, I didn't. Mainly because Mom and Dad couldn't afford it.
Hell, they were a dime a pack when I was a kid, and now I think they're $3, $4, $5.
I know it. They, I was telling my wife Cheryl, we went on a vacation to California, and we had a '52 Chevrolet Bel Air, no air conditioning. My sister and I in the back seat, my mom and dad in the front seat. And my dad always got a room. And back then, in the early 50s, you had boarding houses, tourist homes. People in their homes would rent out bedrooms. And Mom and Dad, $5 for a bedroom. You would go in, bring your suitcase in, sleep. Next day you get up, you shower, and you get ready to leave, pay the person, and then that's how they made their money. But we went 3 weeks in that car with my sister, and it's a wonder that she and I are both alive now, because you keep 2 people cooped up in the, oh my gosh, 7 legs alive. And my dad had this canvas bag hooked over the front bumper, and it was filled with water. And somebody told him, "You'll need it when you cross the desert. We crossed the desert at Death Valley at high noon. And it was 100 and I don't know how, but it was hot. And we would go and stop and take a swig out of that water. Now they would go, oh my heaven's sake, you can't drink out of that. That's going to give you the crotchety. But, you know.
What kind of underwear do you have to be wearing for Don Rickles to make fun of you?
Oh, I did. It was what he had. I tell you, if Rickles were alive now, I would buy him a $60 pair of Tommy Johns and have him. But Rickles, tidy whities, the little white briefs. And, you know, you didn't want to look at a Jewish guy like that because he may think that you have something on your mind. But I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you this. Rickles made an appearance in Pasadena. And my father-in-law, Roy Beecher, was a Rickles fan. And we went, got tickets, went there. At the next table over was Joe Lasorda, Gloria Yeager, Charlie Huff's wife, a few of those people like that. And after the show, we went inside and we were the last group to go in and say hello to Don. And when he saw me, he couldn't jump up because he was frail, but we sat down, we hugged, and he started talking to my father-in-law. And it was like they were friends from Jerusalem. I mean, they were talking, their arms around each other, laughing and all that. And when we left, he said, I can't thank you enough for coming and stopping in. But Rickles, I told you the story after they called me in, and I was told I had to go to Lasorda's office during the ball game. And I looked down, I go, Lasorda's down there at the end of the bench managing. So I go up and I tried the door and it's locked. And I knock on the door and that's when he opens it up. He's standing there in a Dodger blue sleeve sweatshirt and his tidy whities. He said, come in and lock the door. And I told him, I said, Rickles, I'm not that kind of a guy. He said, get in here, you putz. And so I said, what do you need? And he said, I'm going to be ball boy. And you're the only guy on the team I could trust to dress me, because being dressed appropriately meant the world to him. So I said, okay. And I dressed him and I looked at him and I said, now the one thing that they're going to look at, and it happens a lot, is you miss a belt loop. And it stands out like a red light flashing. And so I checked him, I checked his belt, I checked all that. So he goes out and he pats me on the butt and he said, thank you, buddy. I owe you. All right. So we go out and we end up winning the pennant. And I pitched game 1 at Dodger Stadium. And the Phillies beat us in extra innings. Steve Carlton, 1977. Steve Carlton, he didn't go extra innings, but I think he and I both went like 7-8 innings. And we didn't play real well. And next night, we're taking batting practice, and Lasorda is fuming. We come in, shut the door, you guys are better. You played last night like you. He said, I got a sports psychologist coming in that's going to work with us. You know, and everybody goes, oh, no. So the door opens and in walks Rickles. And he's starting, and the stuff he was saying in this climate it was, if you said it was racist, at best, it didn't make a white, black, Hispanic. Rickles, you were fair game. And I remember the Dodger clubhouse was laid out alphabetically. A, B, C, D, E, F. A was Rick Auerbach. Rick effing Auerbach. You got Dusty Baker, Dusty effing Baker. And he's telling this stuff, and Dusty's laughing like crazy, and everybody's laughing. So it comes down Bert Hooton, Charlie Huff, Tommy John, Tommy effing John. Debts paid. And the guys go, "What did you do?" And I said, "I did a little something, he and I, during the game. It's okay." But he kept that. In fact, on my phone, I'll go into my phone and I've got Barbara Rickles' address and stuff there.
Was your dad athletic?
Yeah, Dad was very good, but you know, he and I went to the same high school, not at the same time, but he went to Gerstmeyer. He was in the first 4-year graduating class, and the Gerstmeyer was a vocational school. It was called Gerstmeyer Technical High School. And he went there and he was studying to be a draftsman. You get out of high school, and people didn't go to college back then. You had a job, you were a draftsman. They had auto mechanics, they had woodworking, they had print shop. They had all these things that you learned a trade in high school. And then that was your job. You went out into the market. But my dad was a very good basketball player, a good baseball player, and he was an outstanding golfer. Never took a lesson, played on the weekends, and was very good. In fact, my goal in life is he played golf with me, and he was almost 90. He was like 89 in 10 months. And I want to beat that record. That's my goal, is I want to beat his record. I want to play golf in my 90s so I can go, "Ha, Pop. Thought you could beat me, didn't you? Ain't going to happen, baby."
Where did the number 25 come from?
When we were in high school, my number was 24 at home, and on the road, it was all odds. So my number is 25. When I got with Cleveland, my number was 37. Okay, 37, I don't care. Major League, Cleveland indents, I don't care. It could be 0. But I was 37. Then I was traded to the White Sox. And they said, "What number?" I said, "Well, I had 37 with Cleveland." They said, "Well, one of our guys has 37. How about 25? All right, 25. That was 1965. I had 25 from there on out, and until I retired. Well, I went to the Angels, and Don Baylor wore 25, and I wore 37 again.
You had 141 hits yourself in your Major League Baseball career. Do you remember your 5 home runs? Do you remember hitting a home run in a Major League Baseball game? Do you remember any of those?
Do you want to know my jock size that yeah, my first home run was off a guy named Benny Daniels. My was off Benny Daniels. And then I'm trying to think who else. Billy Stafford with the Yankees. In fact, I won a couple guys dinners because they used to have bets. The pitcher's getting a hit or whatever. And a couple of the guys had me hitting a home run. And Stafford threw me a slider down and away, and I just kind of hooked it. And I hit it solid, but it hooked. And at the old Yankee Stadium, the left field foul pole was 301 feet. My ball went 302 feet. And the last home run I hit was off a guy named Paul Mosco with Cincinnati. And I hit, in fact, that was the deciding run of the game. I hit a home run at Dodger Stadium. But, you know, my thing on hitting is I didn't want to strike out. I wanted to put the ball in play if I could. And if I got a base hit, fine. If I didn't get a base hit, fine too.
What were some of your favorite places to pitch and least favorite places to pitch?
Favorite places, Dodger Stadium, Yankee Stadium, Comiskey Park. Least favorite, Wrigley Field. Because if I throw my sinker away and the hitters hit me like they should, they hit me to right center field. Well, in Wrigley, it was like 360. And that wasn't very far. So I could be had at Wrigley Field. But, you know, if you're pitching well, I love to pitch. It's going to sound funny. I love to pitch at Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Boston. And people go, what? Why? Because the fans made me pitch better. They were screaming and booing and cursing and yelling curses at me. And it just, if I pitched well, I shut them up. And if I shut them up, that made my chest got a little bigger. You know, now if I do it, my waistline gets bigger.
Okay, this is going to be an interesting question, but it's a question I have to ask. And
Sure.
that is, you and Lou Piniella are the two people that wear your hats so weird on your head. Why?
What do you mean weird?
Well, in all your cards and all your pictures, it's a little bit cattywampus, or it doesn't look like it fits.
No, my hat, when I pitched, I put my hat on this way. I put it on the back of my head and pulled it down, and I pulled it on low. But when I'm out there and I'm not pitching, I just had it sitting on top of my head. But because I'm left-handed, and I don't know if this has, but for whatever reason, you look, left-handers wear their hats slightly cockeyed. And I didn't have my hat bill in the shape of a U. It was more of a, yeah. But I don't know. It's just the way I did it.
And Lou Piniella just had just a strange head. That's why his hat always maybe looked cattywampus. I don't know, but I know that people are going, what kind of question is that? Well, I got my answer to my question.
Yep.
So were you, as your career was going along, you know, did it go by real fast? Did you take a lot of it in? Did you collect stuff? Are you a historian of the game? Did you collect stuff? Do you have a lot of stuff still from the game as you went through your career playing Major League Baseball?
No, I was not a collector of memorabilia, although I do have, and it's wrapped up in someplace here in the house, the cast that Dr. Job put on me in 1974 for the first Tommy John surgery. You know, back then they would put a cast on your arm, and it would be in a like this, you know, bent. And now you go in the morning, they do the surgery, and you leave in the afternoon, and you're in a splint. But that's how far the surgery has come. But back then, I've got that cast, and the reason it's good is it's signed by the 1974 Los Angeles Dodgers, including Vin Scully, Danny Murtaugh. We were playing the Pirates in a playoff, and I asked Murtaugh if he would sign it. He said, I'm honored. Yes, thank you. I said, well, I didn't want you to think I was a, crotchety old man. But I've got that wrapped up someplace. And somebody said, you ought to give it to the Hall of Fame. I said, if I ever get in the Hall of Fame, I'll give it to them. If I don't get in the Hall of Fame, it's mine.
Well, there goes me being able to tell you my address and you having it sent to me.
You can give me your address, but I won't be sending it to
you. Speaking of Cooperstown and the Baseball Hall of Fame, the gentleman who kind of got this started was Ted Doyle, and he has a page on Facebook that Tommy John Cooperstown. Can you tell us your thoughts on the Baseball Hall of Fame? I mean, just any comments on the second person with the most victories that's not in there, and the first person will never make it in there because of all the steroid rage. So 288 victories, 700 games started, just
well,
your thoughts.
The other thing, I had 188 no decisions.
Yep.
That coupled with 288 wins, I'm well into the 300s. But my dad told me when I was a young boy, Tom, don't get all upset over things you have no control over. I have no control over this. So, it's what it is what it is, and I'll live with it. If I get in the Hall of Fame, we will celebrate. If I don't get in the Hall of Fame, we'll still celebrate.
Tommy John, you said that Arlie Andrews had the gift of gab. At the beginning of this conversation, I didn't think you did, but I think you do also.
Well, I should have been a car salesman. In fact, that's what my friend told me when in Terre Haute. He said, if you get out of the game of baseball, I got a job here for you. And I, as much as I like to bullshit, I probably could have sold cars.
Terre Haute gets a bad rap. I graduated from Indiana State University in 1990. Of course, you did the commencement speech there in 2014, but it does get a bad rap, doesn't it? Sometimes I don't know why.
Well, it's a small town. It's a river town. And I just think a lot of people go Terre Haute, boom. But my dad told me when I signed, he said, Tom, your mom and I are really proud of you. But remember one thing, no matter what you do in baseball, you will only be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. That's what you'll be. And I said, so that was my thing. Okay. All right. I'm Tommy John, Terre Haute, Indiana. My dad gave me a shake. I've got a tremor. I wish he'd give me about 10 more miles an hour on my fastball.
Tommy John, I know I went a little bit long. I know your time is precious. Hopefully, I don't know if you're going to play golf today, but we thank you so much for spending some time on the program, and we appreciate it so much.
I like that Tech jersey back there, Tech 21.
What's interesting is if you would have went to Georgia Tech,
that's Georgia Tech.
That's Georgia Tech. And if you would have went to Georgia Tech, that's Roger Kaiser's jersey.
Roger Kaiser from where was he in Jasper, Indiana?
Dale, Indiana.
Yes.
So you would have played with Roger Kaiser, who was the first All-American from Georgia Tech, but the rest is history.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. If you ever get in a slow spot and you need some verbiage, call me.
Tommy John, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.